Virtual worlds. This has, I think, an incredible potential as being for a learning space in the future on the web. Because virtual worlds are by definition, they're open, they're immediate, they're innovative, they're all these things that students are going to want to use. The best example of a virtual world is Second Life, and as of March of this year, it has an estimated registration of 20 million. The Gartner Group says that by 2011, 80% of all internet users are going to have some access or some form of identity in a virtual community. So why don't we take advantage of that and use that to create learning spaces that know no physical boundaries. So these virtual worlds can extend the classroom, they can enhance students' experience, they can augment materials, and they can accelerate learning in a very meaningful way. So for example, what do we have in this picture? This is the Stanford Library. But it's not the real Stanford Library. It's the Stanford Library in a virtual world. It's a Stanford Library that you can go to right at your desk or right from your mobile phone and utilize its resources. What can you see in terms of virtual world applications? Well, certainly simulations, role-playing are an incredible part. Distance learning, collaborative experiments, and experiential learning. You know, virtual worlds are no longer just a game that you've come from. So for example, here's something that was done at Idaho State University. They simulated an emergency response in Second Life. There's also a study, for example, of doing epidemics in Second Life, where you actually release a virus and see what the effect it has. You would never consider doing that in the real world because of the impact it would obviously have in terms of killing people. But in Second Life, you could easily acquire meaningful data that allows you to do some kinds of field studies and simulations that would never otherwise be possible. It's an incredible opportunity for a learning experience. There's even mashups in virtual worlds. That basically means then that you can give classes. So I could take a PowerPoint presentation and hold a class in Second Life and present my slides. Rich internet applications. What does this mean? This basically says that the whole emphasis now in terms of web applications, etc., is to have interaction that is meaningful for the applications. You know, if you think about what web pages used to look like with just drop-down menus and radio buttons and things like that, that's boring. That's not the way people interact anymore. And what we see is that whole idea, I say, is common to all those scaffolding we've talked about before. What's impressive about virtual worlds is the way you can interact. What's impressive about mashups is because of the interaction that's provided to you with the data. So consequently, what we see when I said the data revolution is over, in some ways the data revolution has led to the media revolution. Because interaction implies media. A way that we can deal with that. So, what are my conclusions that I'd like to leave you with in this case? I believe that the web and the internet is obviously an incredible repository of data. But it's a repository of data that we have not recognized the potential of, that we have not yet figured out a mechanism for converting it into knowledge. And I think that what we're seeing in some of these applications is that users, web users and internet users, are developing skills that provide us that can be leveraged into learning spaces that we should take advantage of in the building of learning spaces. And that many of these technologies we see has the focus of bringing people together. And that's what learning is in many ways. It's bringing people together collaboratively to the benefit of all. And I believe that none of these technologies that I've given you examples of, none of them are uniquely educational based. None of them are uniquely designed for education. But I believe that all of them could in fact be readily used by people who understand the goals of education, could be used to create our technology-enriched learning spaces.